Hi guys, welcome back to Ox Talks. It is Saturday, December 16th, 2023. It's a beautiful day out here in the Coachella Valley where I'm located. These are the days that we suffer in the brutal summers during the year waiting for. It's low 70s, sun's out, beautiful day. The air is clean and clear. Looks like over the next coming week or so into Christmas, it's going to actually cool down for us. Cool down as high 60s. Leave some comments below where you guys are at around the country or the world, and what the weather's like in your area. I always love hearing about that. I used to be fascinated watching the Weather Channel when there was severe weather events. So kind of dorky, I know, but yeah, let me know where you're at and what the weather's like this time of year where you're at. I'm sure there's a lot of places that are brutally cold right now across the country. So this is cool for us. Down to the maybe low 40s at night. It does get colder than that, maybe in January, but not too much. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for being here and participating in this community, which is growing. I appreciate everybody's feedback. Please like, subscribe, and share the videos with your family, friends, and colleagues so we can continue to wake people up about what is going to be unfolding now, and going to be unfolding even more so, in my opinion, in 2024 and even in 2025. I want to address a couple things today. Watch the whole video because I'm going to address at the end some preparedness, let's say categories, things that I've implemented over the years in my preparedness strategy. And let me know if that's something that you want to hear more about. Obviously, we talk about OPSEC, operational security, not talking about how much of anything or where it's located, but more importantly, I'd love to educate you guys about my journey and what categories of things that I have taken time and money and resources, a lot of effort to build up over many years. Everyone has to start somewhere. If you all think that a couple cans of beans and a bag of rice is going to save you in the event of a shortage or a natural disaster or unforeseen collapse, you are sadly mistaken. You guys have got to be way ahead of the curve on this. And look, once you get to a point where you have put this stuff back, you've done the research and you've allocated the resources, then you can look at other opportunities. What I suggest, this is just my personal opinion, not financial advice, what I suggest you go out and stack gold coins and silver coins before you have food and water and security and medical and hygiene and all the other things that I'll discuss later on in the video. Absolutely not. Should you have a few maybe ounces of silver, some cash on hand? Sure. But you've got, in my opinion, there are other things you've got to focus on first. And then you can do the other items. Then you can broaden your horizon. And once all this stuff is done, you can look at other opportunities, buying real estate, looking at other business opportunities. Now, this is not in lieu of starting your own business and getting your own income stream, but I think there has to be an order of things from my perspective that I've implemented that all of you should consider. So with that being said, watch the whole video. It might go a little longer than normal. It's Saturday, so let me ramble a bit because I think it'll be something educational for all of you to pay attention to. Two main things popped out today in news. One is the real estate prices are collapsing. Home prices. I'm not talking about commercial. We dealt with that yesterday. Home prices are crashing. Inventory is starting to hit the market, and it's going to get worse. The second one I'll address is Mark Zuckerberg evidently is building a 100-acre or more compound in Hawaii, and he is doing a major underground bunker. I'll address some of the details in that. Maybe it's old news to you guys, just came out of the New York Post that I saw yesterday. But look, it is very, very telling as one of the wealthiest guys in the world what he is doing. So let me start with the first article. It says, this is out of the Business Insider, actually yesterday. It says, home prices are getting slashed as inventory climbs and high mortgage rates push sellers to compete for buyers, Zillow says. It says home prices are getting slashed at an unusual pace, Zillow economists said. Nearly 23% of listings on the market saw a price cut in November. That's almost 25% of the listings. That's partly because sellers are competing for buyers as mortgage rates remain high. And it says home prices are getting slashed at an unusual pace, thanks to a recent surge in inventory and still high mortgage rates pushing sellers to compete for buyers. The share of listings on the market, we said, was 22% down. Excuse me, let me repeat this. The share of listings on the market that saw a price cut in November was 22.6% down, slightly from October's 25%, but still abnormally high for this time of year, it says. The real estate listings site said in its monthly housing market update on Monday. Price cuts are more common than normal. Chances are good that prices are negotiable, Zillow says. That means they're getting soft, guys. And this is now. Nothing's even really happened yet. It says the trend likely reflects sellers trying to attract buyers who had largely been shut out of the housing market as mortgage rates soared. Well, look, mortgage rates have pulled back a bit, but have they come back to where they were 2 years ago? Absolutely not. They're not even close. So you're just not going to have these buyers rushing into the market. So you have sellers getting more desperate to try to move their homes. I have a couple of friends that have rental homes and other properties, and they don't. My personal recommendation to these guys for the last 5 months, 6 months has been sell these properties. Capitalize on all the equity appreciation you've had over the past several years. Keep the money powder dry and wait for the opportunities to come back. They're not doing it. They're holding onto the houses. And from my perspective, not only them, but everybody else that's doing that for a house that's not a primary residence, you stand the chance of losing a substantial portion of your equity as these equity values start to fall. It says while the 30-year fixed rate has tumbled from 8% in October, it still dwarfs the cost of borrowing that buyers faced in 2021 when the rate hovered between 2 and 3%. So it's still over 200 times, twice what it was in 2021. It says, but rates still higher than 7% continue to hamper demand and help push home prices down, Zillow said. Sellers are responding to affordability challenges as well by cutting prices, list prices. Meanwhile, inventory has ticked higher in over the past month, which also has helped improve housing affordability. Okay, if you're a buyer, that might be true. But if you're a buyer, you're not paying cash. You're still having to come in and take a mortgage out at 7% or something like that, which is crazy. It says high mortgage rates made sellers hesitant the past year to list their homes for sale, but listings on the market jumped 3.1% per year in November, despite mortgage rates remaining elevated. So you have distressed sellers. You're going to see more distressed sellers. If you are looking to buy a home, again, I'm not giving legal advice, financial advice. You might want to consider waiting because these prices are getting cut. They're coming down, and who's to say this isn't just the beginning of this process? I think it is, and this time next year, we're going to be having a whole new set of metrics as to how much inventory is on the market, how much prices have dropped year over year, and I bet it's going to be substantial. All right, next article I saw came out of the New York Post, and this was 2 days ago. I don't know, maybe you all saw this. I did not see it. I'm not a Zuckerberg guy. I don't follow him, but it says Mark Zuckerberg building a $100 million Hawaii compound with a massive underground bunker. It says Mark Zuckerberg is reportedly building a sprawling $100 million Hawaii compound complete with underground bunker and its own food and energy sources in a secret project, suggesting the social media mogul is trying to conceal his doomsday preparations. The compound on Kauai Island will consist of more than a dozen buildings with 2 central mansions that will be connected by a tunnel that leads to, listen to this, a 5,000 square foot underground shelter with an escape hatch accessible via a ladder, Wired reported, citing the building plans. It says the subterranean bunker will hold a living space and mechanical room and feature an apparent blast-resistant concrete and steel door as reported. According to Wired's sources and construction plans, the builders hope to make it completely self-sufficient. A water tank 55 feet in diameter and 18 feet tall, along with a pump system, will be housed on the property, where existing ranching and agricultural on the 1,400 acres already provide food sources, it says. So, look, this is one of the wealthiest guys in the world, and he is building a compound with an underground bunker, blast-resistant underground bunker, food sustainability, water storage. So, look, what does this guy know that we don't? Who knows? But I mean, we should be paying attention to what is happening here and what this guy's doing. Look at, none of us can afford that kind of a property to put together that kind of a bunker. I mean, it's I saw a movie, by the way, a couple of days ago, and actually a subscriber mentioned it and asked if I had seen it, called what was it? When the World Ends. It's a current Netflix movie. It's like #1 on Netflix, and it has Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke. Anyway, I watched it the other night. It's about 2 hours long. It's long, but if any of you like that topic, I would recommend seeing that movie. It's eye-opening. Obviously, there's some fluff in there, but boy, it is based upon a war game plan that's been in place for a long time about, either taking out a country's satellites or detonating an EMP and watching a country literally implode on itself. And that's what the context of this movie was. And it's something that you guys might want to take a look at. It was eye-opening, obviously depressing, but hey, it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. But anyway, in that movie, I'm not giving anything away, but they come across this extremely well-established and well-made bunker. And it's funny that all this, all the food storage in there, plant life going, water, security, all this stuff. So anyway, check it out. So look, like I was getting back to the point, no, none of us can afford the kind of stuff that Zuckerberg's doing. But look, we all can try to fortify and create our own bunker. What does that mean? Well, it means, from my perspective, having some food storage, having some water storage, and a way to filter water. Obviously, those of us in the country around the world that have large ranches, that have ponds and water sources on their property and have food sources, you guys are way ahead of the game, okay? But for the vast majority of people living in populated areas, that's simply not the case. So what can you do to fortify your own bunker? From my opinion, there are several things that you could implement. Look, the reality is this stuff all takes time. It all takes money. It all takes organization. So what I did was I pulled, my list, and what I do is I'm pretty organized. I keep a list, and I'm not going to go through, how much of stuff I have or units, things like that. I think everyone has to keep that information for themselves and private. But I will share with you the categories that I track. And then within those categories, how many units and how much, and the different methods, because there are different methods for everything you have to consider. So let me share some of those categories with you. Start doing your own research if this is important to you. If you don't care and you think that having some gold and silver or having a couple of firearms is going to be all you need, then that's your decision. But the reality is that my personal perspective is my scope of preparation far exceeds that. It includes that, but it far exceeds that. So here are some of the categories I track. #1, water storage. How do you store water? If you don't have a source of readily available fresh water on your property or nearby, how are you keeping your water storage? Do you have a storage tank? Do you have 5-gallon bottles of water? What kind of water filtration do you have at your property to filter your own water if the water system becomes compromised? And obviously, do you have any way to obtain water sources from outside your property and then filter that water? So that's something to keep in mind. Let's talk about food storage. Again, couple of bags of rice and some pork and beans ain't going to get it done, guys. You've got to consider this stuff on a longer term level. Not only short term, 7 to 14 days. Obviously, having canned goods. The pastas and things like that you get at Costco. Obviously, canned beans, canned vegetables, things like that. But if something should happen and there's a more prolonged necessity for the food, a real shortage, you've got to start looking at some longer term food storage options, in my opinion. I think that would include, I've discussed it briefly before, is number 10 cans of food. I have used over the years August Farms, AUG, I think it's USON. Could be ASON. They can get purchased through Costco. The number 10 cans have a substantial shelf life, 10, 20 years, and you can get everything across the gamut from your TVPs, textured vegetable proteins, even real proteins, fruits, vegetables. Obviously, it is something for you to consider in terms of long-term food storage. And you got to think of this stuff in terms of calories per day, from my perspective, and servings per container. You need to maximize calories per day for each of your family members. You have to calculate that, and how many servings do you get. Some of the stuff that's on the market, they call it prep stuff. The calories are low, the quality is crap, and you don't get any real servings. So you think you're going to get a couple buckets of food, throw it in the closet. Think again. It's not going to last you nearly as long as you think. So a lot of that's marketing. Be careful with how you approach it. Consider something like August Farms. Do your own research on that. Beyond the number 10 cans, you start looking at 5-gallon buckets of food. What does that mean? 5-gallon buckets of rice, oatmeal, sugar, beans, various kinds of beans, guys. Not just the old pinto beans. Look into that. Pinto beans take a long time to cook. They require a lot of water. And it's something that, you hear, get some pinto beans. There are other types of beans, lentils, Mayakoba beans. So do some research on that. You can get those 5-gallon buckets. You can get Mylar bags, fill them yourselves, or you can order 5-gallon buckets directly from other sources, already prepackaged, long shelf life. Those are things you want to consider for even longer term. You have to think about your fats and proteins. You can't live off just carbohydrates. You have to have fats. Think about some olive oil, some coconut oil. You've got to have protein mixed in. So you have to be able to provide a well-balanced nutritional system for you and your family in a prolonged situation. So again, I would keep that take that into consideration. Do your own research on that. But those are some of the categories that I look at. Spices are important. Some of this stuff is bland. You want to, obviously maintain enjoyable comfort as during times of stress. So have some spices on hand. Let's talk about water filtration. What sources of filtration do you have? Beyond your food, your water storage, how do you filter your water? You have a water filtration system, and what types of filtration, okay? So those are all very, very important to consider. There's a whole lot of options there. Talk about cooking and fuel. How are you going to cook your food? Do you have the ability to use propane on a propane-driven barbecue? Do you have a way to cook food using a solar system? Those are all things you have to consider. Prep communities strongly consider charcoal to be a strong method for fuel because those briquettes can heat up. They provide a lot of energy, and they can boil water very, very quickly. So how are you going to cook, and what fuel sources do you have? Power generation and solar. How are you going to generate power if the power goes out? How are you going to do that? Do you have any way from solar system, either on your property, maybe permanent or not permanent? You got to give that some consideration. So cooling is another one. If you're living in a hot climate like I do parts of the year, how are you going to cool? Do you have other scenarios if there's no electricity? You may not be able to jump in the car if your power goes out and go down the street to the Marriott and check into a nice air-conditioned room. So how are you going to keep you and your family cool if there is a prolonged outage of power? Talk about sleeping. Do you have tents? Do you have sleeping bags? Do you have mats? Do you have ways that you can sleep comfortably if you were outside your house? Let's say you had a collapse of a structure. Can you sleep comfortably outside and protect your family from the elements? Depends on where you live, obviously. I look at batteries and light sources. Do you have battery systems? Do you have backup systems where you can do charging of batteries? And can those batteries be charged off of a solar backup if the electricity is out? How many, just regular batteries do you have laying around where you can throw into your lights, your flashlights, all those kind of things that require batteries? How about your radios? Maybe that's your sole source of communication. Dealing with communication, what do you have? Have you guys considered ham radio operations? It's easy to get your ham radio license. If the power goes out, ham radio communicators are still up and running. It's something you've got to look into if you want to. It takes some time, some effort. It might be worth it from your perspective to have an alternative source of communication if cell phones are down, power's down, all those kind of things. Of course, we're talking about security, multi-tools, tools, knives, things like that, utilitarian, and also security. Ammunition, obviously, won't go into too much detail on that. But again, if you think you got a couple of boxes of rounds, range rounds in your closet, that's good enough. You may want to think twice. You may want to look at a real defense ammunition and see how that differs from range ammunition and how much you should have or consider having for your tools and your weapons in the event that you can't get this stuff. Okay? Next big topic, and I know we're going a little long here, guys. We're already at 20 minutes, but these are important topics. I can always break these down, flush them out in more detail. If that's something you all want to see, I'll get a read from the comments, or excuse me, from the views and comments, and see if it's something that is important to all of you. Medical kits, and trauma kits. Obviously, two different things, but medical, how are you going to provide if there's injuries? Do you have sutures? Do you have, ways to clean wounds? Do you have all that stuff? Look into those topics. And trauma kits, tourniquets, ways to pack a wound, ways to dress a wound, ways to stop bleeding. Those things, you can go down a rabbit hole on each of these topics, guys. I'm just going through the categories that I look at. How about antibiotics and things like that, medicines? If you take medicines, you better think about stocking up. Think about having some backup supplies of whatever you take, whether it's heart medication, diabetes medication, because look, if the pharmacies are shut down, stores are shut down, you won't be able to replenish this stuff overnight with calling on the phone and putting in your prescription number. So think about having some backup supplies, especially if it's life sustaining for you, meaning you need those medications to stay alive. You can't get that stuff replaced after the fact. So these are all things that I look at, and then of course I also have a get home bag I carry around in my vehicle. I also have 3-day bags for myself and my family. Those all have a whole number of other items and topics. We can cover subtopics within those 3-day bags. Those of you that are very, very, very versed on this stuff may have 7-day bags, 30-day bags. You can, again, sky's the limit on this stuff. The point being is, it's not just about being prepared to take advantage of opportunities as they arise, which they will from a financial perspective. In my opinion, you've got to also look at these crucial basic things. Once you've got these bases covered, fine. Go out and start buying rental houses. But look at rental income. It might help you to pay for this stuff and to get it organized, but it's not going to provide this stuff if something collapses. I love metals. I'm a big gold, silver fan. I've talked about that in physical form. But again, it may help you to barter for some of these items, but not to this level. You've got to put this stuff in place ahead of time. So this is quite a long video for me. I will leave it there. Today was my day off from working out. Going to hang out with the family this afternoon, and did a little bit of work today. Worked on a couple files. Again, when you have your own business, this stuff never stops. It's 24/7. So with that being said, I hope you got something out of the video today, and I will see all of you tomorrow. Okay, bye.